We've been in this series called The Good Life, right? It's this idea that Jesus taught us a new way to live. And when Jesus showed up on the scene, it changed everything. And in his most famous sermon, we have this transcript of it in the book of Matthew, in Matthew 5, 6, and 7. And in it, Jesus is talking to us and he's teaching about a specific way to live. And we've been studying this all summer, and we have several more weeks to go, and I'm excited about where we're going. But today, we're going to be talking about the concept of treasure. I'm going to take this off. This is hurting my neck. So today we're going to be talking about the concept of treasure. And I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I had certain items that I really treasured. Anybody have that item, especially when you were a kid, that it may not have had a lot of physical value, but it meant a lot to you? My oldest son, Jackson, is in the back of the room, and he is a Lego master, right? He can build just about anything, and it's always symmetrical, and it blows my mind what this kid is capable of doing. But the problem is also in the back of the room are his three younger siblings who sometimes mess up, especially the baby, mess up what Jackson makes. So Jackson has this special place in our house that he pulls a chair and he climbs up and he puts all of these Legos creations on his shelf because he treasures them, he values them. I don't know what your treasure was when you were growing up. Mine was a Nolan Ryan autographed baseball. Right? And I loved this baseball. And I had it in the protective memorabilia case that holds the baseball. And then I put it in my toy box, which was kind of my treasure chest. Because I didn't even want to display it because I needed to protect it. And when my friends would come over, I would pull it out and be like, look what I have, but don't breathe on it because that plastic may not stop your breath. It was my Nolan Ryan autographed baseball. I had a few other little trinkets that I collected over time, not nearly as valuable as my baseball. I had this Ninja Turtle, right? It was Raphael, the red Ninja Turtle, and he had an arm missing. But for some reason, I still to this day have this thing. For some reason, it was such a valued treasure to me that it was important that I hide it and I put it with my place where all my special me items were. What was your treasure? As I grew up, kind of those treasures changed. And if we're honest, if we each kind of have those things. And as we get older and we add things to them, one of the things that I added to my Nolan Ryan autographed baseball is a Greg Maddux World Series autographed baseball. And if you watch any of our live streams from my house, they're sitting on the shelf behind you because I'm proud of them. I like them. I treasure them. Maybe they're not baseballs for you. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's your car. Maybe it's your 401k. Maybe it's your house. Maybe it's your keepsakes. Whatever it is, there's things that we have a tendency to hold on to. There's things that we have a tendency to treasure. That we want to secure them. We want to protect them. The physical security industry is a $100 billion industry. Insurance is a $1 trillion industry. Trillion. That's a big industry. That's a lot of dollars. And think about it, even the concept of insurance is a crazy idea that we want security for things. Even the government tells us we have to have insurance on our cars because in case something goes bad. And sometimes I'm looking at my car going, I kind of want something to go bad to that car so I can get a different car. Anybody else feel me on that one? But insurance, security, these are things to secure these things that we treasure, to protect. Right, we save all of our careers. We build these retirements so that we can have comfort in things and possessions and retirement. But Jesus has something to say about possessions. They sometimes even apply to your Nolan Ryan baseballs. This is what he says in Matthew chapter 6, verse 19. It says, do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Right? If you were with us in early March, we were in the middle of a finance series when the pandemic hit, and we actually cut it a week short. But this is not a sermon on money, right? And while, yes, there's some things in Scripture, even in this passage, that have to do with money, we're kind of taking a 10,000-foot view of this today. And instead of looking specifically on stewardship, we're looking at the concept of value, of treasuring. And so the question I have for you today is what do you value? What do you treasure? What are the things that you hold close? What do you want to protect? What do you want to secure? What do you want to insure? And Jesus, it's interesting because in this passage, Jesus kind of outlines these three different areas, right? Or these three different illustrations, right? He talks about the idea of possessions that are destroyed. He talks this kind of weird illustration about the eye in lamp and light and darkness. And then he talks about the idea of serving something. And all of it kind of comes together to this point where Jesus is talking about if we can truly see and if we can truly understand what is valuable, what we should value. And if you look at in the first part of the passage, it talks about this idea of treasures that we possess, that can be destroyed, that can be taken away. In the ancient Middle East, right, their treasures were a little bit different than maybe ours are today, but it doesn't mean they didn't want to protect them. Like, for instance, today, if I need a shirt, I can go to Kohl's because they have a clearance rack for cheap, and I can pick up a cheap shirt that doesn't look that bad, right? It's Kohl's. That's what Kohl's is good for. And even if I need it that day, I can still go to Kohl's and get the shirt that I need that day. But in the ancient Middle East, like, you either had to make your own clothes or you had to purchase them from someone else who made them, and they weren't usually cheap. Textile industries didn't exist. If you actually had silk, that was unbelievable. You were wealthy beyond most people's means if you could possess silk. But there was something that took that wealth away, a natural cause: moths. And while we kind of look at it and go, okay, yeah, moths eat clothes. But you don't understand, in the ancient Middle East, like, moths were a huge problem. They could destroy value. Now we just throw some mothballs in, and gosh, they stink. But whatever they had that they could possess could easily be destroyed. It could easily be taken away. Rust, they didn't understand the concept of chemical reactions, or at least most people didn't. And rust was a destruction. It could take away your currency, like your physical currency. It could take away the weapons that you use to protect yourself or your armor, your battle equipment. And thieves, right? We didn't have security systems. Brinks didn't exist back in the day. And if your sword is all rusty, it's not going to help you anyway, so. Right, so each of these, right, what Jesus is talking about in this first concept, this first part of the passage, is that the things that we possess are not secure. No matter what we think we can do to secure them, they're not secure. Right, but we live in America. We live with this concept of Fort Knox, where we can, like, lock stuff down, we can get protection, and if we can't protect, we can insure. And in our culture, we're trying to do as much as we can to protect what we treasure. And I think what it has done, it has caused us to our hearts to be drawn toward what we treasure so much that we miss who our treasure should be. We miss the place where our hearts should belong. The second part of the passage, Jesus talks about the eye and this idea of light and darkness. And what most scholars think is Jesus was actually talking about the concept of blindness. And if an eye cannot see, it cannot have light come into the body. This is an ancient understanding of sight. And if you can't have light come into your body, you can't fully understand. And when we let our possessions steal our sight, we lose sight and we don't see what we really should be focused on. And in the end, he talks directly to the point where you can't serve two masters. You're going to love one and hate the other, or despise one and love the other, because you can't serve both God and money. It's not just the fiscal part of that, it's the value part of that. You can't serve, you can't love, you can't value God wholeheartedly and also value this stuff wholeheartedly. And so that's what we're jumping into. That's what we're talking about today in this passage. And we're going to look at some of the other things that Jesus has to say throughout the Gospels as he teaches on this concept. But this is what I need you to grasp, is that Jesus asks us to value what Jesus values. All right? So Jesus is asking us to value what he values. And we see this throughout this passage and throughout the New Testament. Go ahead and turn to Luke chapter 14 if you have your Bibles. Because in Luke chapter 14, we're going to jump into that part of the text here in a second. But before we do, we have to understand part of what Jesus is teaching is that when we are consumed with value of what we possess, we become possessed by what we value. Right? The way Jesus says this in Matthew is that your heart belongs to what you treasure. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And here's the tension with this, is you see, Jesus wants us to treasure him most. He wants us to value him most. Not the things around us, not the distractions in the world, not our possessions, not our houses or our cars or our boats, not even our families or our spouses or our children. In fact, when Jesus says he wants all of our hearts, he doesn't mean just most of it. You know what he means? All of it. Luke 14, this is what it says. Jesus is talking about what it costs to be a disciple. And it says, now the crowds accompanied him, and he turned and said to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. That is a harsh verse. Jesus says, you got to hate everybody, including yourself, to follow me. I didn't write that. Jesus wrote that. Jesus said that. Whoever does not bear his own cross, whoever is not willing to step into death and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king going out to encounter another king in war will not sit down first and deliberate whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him, even with 20,000? And if not, while the other is yet a great way away, will he not send a delegation and ask for terms of peace? So therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. And this is what Jesus is saying. You got to count the cost of what it means to follow me. And the great lie that we've been told as Christians is it's so easy to follow Jesus. All you got to do is pray this little prayer. Walk down to the front, maybe get a little splash on you. And you're good. You got your fire insurance, you get into heaven. Pass go, click, $200. You're good. But that's not what Jesus says. It's not just about praying a little prayer. Walking down to the front, talking to a pastor. Jesus doesn't want you just to pray a little prayer. He doesn't want just a little bit. Jesus wants everything. He says that I want all of you. Right? He says you have to hate your loved ones, your spouses, your children, your parents, your brothers, your sisters. Because this is Jesus' point. If we don't count the cost, if we don't understand, if we don't have that foundation, right? If we're building a tower and we don't have that foundation laid, we can't possibly build a tower. If you don't love Jesus first and foremost, you can't understand how to best love your friends, your spouse, your children, your parents. You see, Jesus doesn't want part of you. Jesus wants all. Jesus is asking for everything, and he does not want to share your heart. Have you ever lost something that was of great value to you? Maybe even something that it's one of those moments you just kind of close your eyes and you wish like, oh, if I could just go back like just a few minutes and everything would be different. When I was a youth pastor near Austin, Texas, there was a week that we were doing a mission trip with a bunch of kids. We were staying in this house and working at this camp. And in the afternoon, after all of our work was done, we would go down to Lake Travis to go swimming. The first day we went, and it was a great time. The second day we went, and we're having a great time. And at the time, I'm wearing my wedding band, my original wedding band, the one that I got on my wedding day. And it was a little big. And I'm swimming in Texas lake water. I don't know if anybody's ever been in Texas lake water. It's gross. Like, if the water's here and your hand is here, you can't see it. But it's so hot in Texas, they just don't care. And I feel my ring start to slip off my finger. And I try to grab it, and I remember, like, the ring is here, and my fingertips just touch it as it falls down to the bottom. But I'm in, like waist deep, maybe, like, knee-deep water. I'm not in that much water. And so I think surely I will be able to find this. And so I start searching the bottom. 2.5 hours later, I have no idea where my wedding band is, and I am physically ill about it. It's my wedding band. It's the ring that I took when I committed to marry my wife and to love her forever. And no matter how much searching, I feel like it should just be right here. It just literally fell out of my grasp. And I want to possess that back. I treasure that. And it hurts that I can't find it and that I can't have it. Since then, I may have lost a couple more wedding rings. I didn't feel as bad as those, as the first one. There's a level that I was jealous. I wanted that. That was mine. I didn't want anybody else to have it. I didn't want it to be stuck in the bottom of a river. Somebody else could find it and take it one day, or just be down there forever. That wasn't theirs. That was mine. That is Jesus' response to you. You are his. He died for you. He died to save you. He doesn't want part of your heart. He wants all of it. But too often, we fall into this trap of compartmentalizing our faith, where we're great to give Jesus our Sundays, and we're great to give Jesus our major holidays, and maybe even some family events. We're great to give him our Facebook religious status. We're great to give Jesus, maybe we'll go to a small group, so we're great to give him that time, and we're great to give Jesus maybe a midweek Bible study too. And you know what? We're even going to give Jesus a little bit of our time. We're going to serve. Oh, and we'll even give him some of our money. We'll tithe. And we have all these little compartments that we set up that we go, okay, Jesus, you can have this part. And okay, Jesus, you can have this part. And okay, Jesus, you can have this part. But Jesus is saying, no, you don't understand. I want it all. I want you to treasure me more than anything. You see, giving Jesus all of who we are means letting go of the things we value most to value him most. So here's my challenge. What do you value? What treasures pull your heart away? Is it the Nolan Ryan baseball? Is it your stuff? Is it your boat? Is it your house? Is it your retirement? Is it your comfort? Is it your children? Is it your spouse? Is it your friends? Is it your political views? Is it your opinions? Is it your health? What do you value most? What is the thing that you want to protect the most? And here's my other challenging question to you. Are you ready to give even that over to Jesus? Because he doesn't want part of it. He wants all of it. Don't forget, what we try to possess on this earth is never secure, no matter how much insurance we have, no matter how much security we have, because when we are created as eternal beings, why would we possess something temporal when we can't take it with us? What do you value? Matthew chapter 16. Jesus says this. When Jesus told his disciples, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. You have to be willing to let go of even your own life. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? What shall a man give in return for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then will repay each person according to what he has done. And truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Those are the words of Jesus. I know you like what you possess. You know why I know that you like the things that you treasure and value? Because I like the things I treasure and value. I love my family. I like my stuff. I still really like my Nolan Ryan baseball and my Greg Maddux baseball. I really like my opinions. I'd love to share them with you. Just come and ask. I have lots, never a shortage of them. But do I value them more than I value Jesus? And I know on the surface, guys, it's easy to say, no, we don't. But the problem is we easily let ourselves slip into this place where we start worrying more about our finances, worrying more about our security, worrying more about our stuff and our opinions and our politics in November than we worry about Jesus. Because he's given us a mission. He wants all of it. And where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. And where your heart is, you can usually find your treasure too. There's a fancy word we use for it. It's called idolatry. You can't serve two masters. What do you love? What is trying to pull your heart away from your Savior? None of us is exempt. We all have it. Storing up treasures in heaven requires us to focus on what we can impact there while we are still living here. This is what I mean by that, right? We're told, right, that there's an opposite of this, right? Here, nothing is secure. We can't take it with us. And so instead, we should spend our time and energy working on what we can do here that's going to impact eternity. So the question is, what can you do now that you can take with you? What does it mean to store up treasures in heaven? And while too many pastors have often said, well, this is about the offering. You got to give to the offering plate. Notice how I went super southern there for a second. I don't think that's what Jesus is saying. I don't think it's about how much coins you put in the plate. I think it has everything to do with another thing Jesus taught about. Matthew 22. There was a Sadducee, a lawyer, came up to Jesus. And he's trying to trick Jesus, and he says to Jesus, Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? What's the most important law? Like, what's number one on the list? And Jesus says to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And if you understand a Middle Eastern understanding of this passage, it is every aspect of your being. How you think, how you feel, how you act, your conscious, your subconscious, Jesus and God. You love God with all of who you are. But there's a second commandment. This one's like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And if we love ourselves enough that we're going to value Jesus most, right? The only thing we're supposed to love more than us is Jesus. And so we value Jesus so that we can find salvation. But then also, right, when we are saved, when all of us focuses on God, he says, as much as you love that, right, love other people. You want to know how you impact eternity? You can't take your stuff with you. You can't take your boat with you. You can't take your retirement with you. And the money you leave for your kids or grandkids, they can't take it with them either. You know what you can take with you? A relationship with your Heavenly Father. Last week we talked about that prayer is the conversation language of God. And we're not talking about an ethereal God who's big and sitting on a cloud or waiting at some pearly gates with a big white beard and a robe with lights behind him. We're talking about an intimate being, an intimate, loving Father who wants a personal relationship with you. You can take that with you. Oh, and there's something else. You see, when you love God that much, we've been given a mission, Matthew 28. We're supposed to go in the world and make disciples. Jesus talks about this with the laying of the foundation for that building. You count the cost because you want to lay that foundation so that you can build something else. I want to lay the foundation of faith in Jesus so that my wife and my children understand that matters most to me because that's the most important thing. So that will be the most important thing to them. You want to love your friends, love God most. You want to love your spouse, love God most. You want to love your children, love God most. Value him most. And that is how you value others. And then we connect other people to him. The mission of Lighthouse Church is to see lives transformed through Jesus. I can't take my stuff with me, but I can share with you the love of Jesus and you can be there too. That is how we impact eternity. You want to store up treasures in heaven? Right? There's this like false, like cheesy Christian thing. It's, we get jewels in our crowns. I don't want a crown. That's gaudy. I'd rather you be there, and you be there, and you be there, and you be there than have a crown. Don't misunderstand what the treasure is. You're the treasure. Jesus died for you. Jesus died for me. What can you do today that's going to make a difference for eternity? You can love God first and foremost, and that you can show that love to other people. Look, I know this isn't easy. I know again, there's times that we don't mean to slip into this idea of possessions. We don't mean to slip away from valuing God most, but it happens. Sunday afternoons, you know what I value most? My time. You know why? Because I can get a nap. Anybody else Sunday afternoon nap people? You know what's hard for me though? Is when someone's like, hey Joel, could you come to this event? We'd really love for you to pray. And then God tells me, no, you should go to that event. I'm like, no, God, you don't understand. That's nap time. We have this deal worked out. I work for you all morning, and it's my nap time in the afternoon. You know what God says? I want your afternoon too, and I want your night. I want your 2 in the morning. I want it all. He wants it all. The things we value here, we can't take. The things that we value for there, we should work to make an impact on now and today. This is my prayer this morning, is that God gives us the ability to value him more than we value anything else. And I'm going to encourage you this morning that let that be your prayer too.